So in the last few minutes, you want to tell the... Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
My question is for you actually. Like I know the situation, I'm so aware what's going on like in your country. But do you think like poverty and exploitation inside your country is not better like exploitation outside the country? Like I know that you are suffering in the country, and like it is the hardest moment just to decide to go outside and work. But I think like about my personal point of view, like if I stay in my country and start to make network like a net around me and to talk to people and to encourage like local products and like local industry, I think it's gonna work. I know the situation actually, but I'm just asking like, what do you think?
Oh yeah, there are a lot of initiative now by the community because, well, practically the basic analysis is the state fail even to provide what it should be given to the people. So the community is actually finding their own way of living. One of them is actually a community production of of anything, the thing that they really need, including, for example, medical treatment. They go back now to the traditional way of treating because healthcare is impossibly reached by poor people in my country. So it's something that is ongoing now, but whether it prevents people from living, I don't think so, because the problem is this kind of small initiative has to compete with big corporation. Like for example, simple thing, the small market where my mom works is actually community market. Now next to it there is the Infomart. I do not know who owns that, but this is actually a small market, but they sell everything that people need, cheap, fresher. So then what else you expect? People will not come anymore to the traditional market. They go to this kind of market. So what is the impact? People are leaving the market. They become unemployed, and then they move out to the town just to find means, little income they can bring back to their village. And some of us actually moving to another island, for survival. Another one like me, for example, living to be a migrant worker. In fact, when I left my town in 1999, it was only like 2 or 3 million migrant workers. Now we have like almost 8 to 10 million Indonesian outside the country. So yes, answering to your question, it is there, but it doesn't really stop. And I think, like going back to what has been presented by Kate, the problem is we are surrounded by very globalized economy that promote
Challenge.
So
I know it is problematic actually, but like, question, I don't know.
I think one of when Annie started to tell her story as well, she told about what happened in the country after the Asian financial crisis and why that particularly forced her to migrate. And that what happened there was that speculation, basically, around currencies and other things led to this crisis. It wasn't a crisis that was led because people suddenly stopped working or because, anything like that. It's a purely speculative crisis. And what happened was that the International Monetary Fund then dictated how economies should run. And so Indonesia and other countries were forced to do things to their economies that were not in the interests of people. So to privatise everything, to privatise health, education, and to sell off their public assets. So that's why Annie's education and that of her brothers and sisters was no longer affordable. That's why she had to, if that one didn't happen, she could have stayed. They would have been able to go to school.
Yeah, but I'm not talking about like personal things, but I'm talking about the mainstream. Because, like that happened in my country too. I'm from Palestine, and there is a lot of people want to travel outside just to find like a way to live like decently. But I know like even America, it's not the land of the dream. There is like their own problems, and there's like immigration everywhere.
America is a very clear example of all of this itself because of the huge inequality. But Annie's story is not one story. That is the story of Indonesia. That is why so many migrants suddenly, migration wasn't like that before.
Yeah.
Migration is a product of globalization, and that's what happened when the International Monetary Fund forced these countries to do that. You know what they're doing, even now, the countries, even the developed countries, they will force those countries to reduce jobs in their own country. They get rid of all the public service, reduce the minimum wage. And now some of those people, like Australia, we don't have a financial crisis. Suddenly we have Europeans who want to be like migrants to Australia, who get these, holiday visas. We have a holiday program, like backpackers can come and work for a year or something, or 2 years. Now those backpackers are all trying to stay for another year, because there's no jobs in Europe anymore, because of the way the international migration, has also happened there. So it's not a one-off story, it's a story of how migration is being used. I guess if you look, it's a bigger picture, but historically countries, the European countries basically, were able to take their surplus labour and rather than pay them, export them. They used to, and that was colonisation. So that's how but now countries that have surplus labour have nowhere, unless they address exactly what is the value of labour, they will end up making those surplus people not colonising another country, but effectively slaves in wherever somebody's prepared to use surplus labour. So it's a very, the broader, this is the economy of capitalism. You have to have surplus exploitative labour, and you have to look at how to extract as much as possible out of that. And in this case now, it's really focused a lot on migration, on migrant labour.
I'm going to have to thank you all because everyone has other topics to go to. So I want to thank everyone. So a round of applause. But maybe then what we could do is send to all the students things that they could do.
Yes, okay.
To do that, or unless if people don't have classes and want to wait a few minutes afterwards, we can also do it. It's just